Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners! The Sounders rule the region! Seattle Sounders is campeón! All creatures great and small.
Rothrock going to collect it. He does just about. Runs into the advertising awning. Low to our left. Ball goes in. Oh, what a cross! And what a goal!
Where's my copy?
I got a bunch of them in the car. I'll get you some.
You're handing them out for free already.
How many
cost on them?
$50.
I'll Venmo you.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes, part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network, sponsored by Full Pull Wines and our subscribers. Today, we're recording on Monday, May 11th, 2026. I am your host, Jeremiah O'Shan. Today, I am joined by Aaron Campo and our engineer, Lickett. And I also want to share that some of these videos are going to be going up on not the Sounder at Heart YouTube page, but actually on the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube page. We're doing sort of a new partnership with them. So if you want to see our beautiful mugs, you can go check us out there. But as far as the Sounders go, coming off a frustrating 1-1 draw with Sporting Kansas City, and then they let another struggling team off the hook, this time settling for a 1-1 draw with San Diego. To be fair, I think this was a little bit different. Sounders had to come from behind, and I thought they did a better job of creating chances, even if it was a still very frustrating outcome. Aaron, what did you make of this one? Is this are you more glass half full or more glass half empty on this tie?
I think that if you want to look at it from the standpoint of, is this team okay? You can probably go glass half full.
Sure.
For me,
okay.
I never had any doubts that this team was okay. I think it's a very good team. And so I'm more on the glass half empty side, because I think that if you want to compete for the Supporters Shield, you've got to win games like this. And I think one of the things I'm really frustrated about after the Sporting KC game, and especially after this one, is like the expected goals are a great statistic, and in the aggregate, they're very useful, right? But when I watch that game, I see chances that the Sounders have to put away, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't see the 2.5 expected goals and the 6 big chances and think everything's hunky-dory because they're creating chances, they're putting things away. That's great. And in the long term, in the long run, that's a reason to feel positive. They're not getting away with anything. They were unlucky, if you want to call it that, in this game. So I'm not worried about the health of this team in the long term. But you've got guys on this team that are paid to put those chances away, and they're not doing it. And that's really, really frustrating. And it's the second game in a row where they've kind of had a situation like that. And I think that it's okay to say, look, the team's playing well, the luck will even out over the course of the year. But I also think sometimes we veer a little far into the pretending like once the chance has been created, it's entirely in God's hands. Yeah. And that's just not true, right? Like, these guys have to put the chances away. And they haven't done it, in 2 straight games that they absolutely should have won. I think that these games shouldn't have been close, right? Like, if this was a game where if they have this exact same result, exact same outcome against San Jose, I'm going to feel a lot better about it because they're playing a very good team. Same thing with, Vancouver the next time they play them. But against the San Diegos of the world, against the Sporting Kansas Cities of the world, you shouldn't be hoping that your luck evens out and you put away your chances. You should be putting up big numbers against these teams because they're bad teams. You should be doing to them what you did to St. Louis a few weeks ago. And so, yeah, I'm pretty frustrated with it. They've gotten, fortunate with the results elsewhere in the league. So they haven't really lost a ton of ground at the Supporters Shield
They haven't
race.
lost any ground.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
frankly.
that's great. That's a good thing. But man, it would have been nice if they could have gained some ground, right? If they could have moved ahead in terms of the points per game, because they've got a couple games in hand on San Jose, and I think one on Vancouver as well. So yeah, I mean, and I think also if this wasn't coming in the wake of that Sporting Kansas City game, which was much more frustrating, I think a worse performance overall, and I think a worse result overall, frankly, I probably wouldn't be as upset about it. But yeah, these two back-to-back has been pretty tough to handle, I think.
I don't know if I disagree with anything you said there. I guess the one thing I will offer is, on some level, I think we knew that the results were going to have to even out on some level. Like something had to give. They were way overperforming their expected points, and at some point you figured there's going to have to be some regression to the mean, and not just because that's how it always works, but like they were so far overperforming that it just couldn't probably continue forever, and we were bound to get some results like this. But you're right, that doesn't make it really the result itself isn't any less frustrating, because they should be beating San Diego. They should certainly be beating Sporting Kansas City. And I suppose if they had won the Sporting Kansas City game, it would be a lot easier to sort of shrug your shoulders at the San Diego game. But because they didn't win it, they can't keep doing this. They can't just keep putting together decent performances and then not getting full points out of it, because at some point you're going to give away all the ground you made up at the start of the season. And it should be noted that in these last two games, they've given up ground. They beat Sporting Kansas City last year on the road. They beat San Diego at home last year. And so that's a 4-point gap that they now that they've given back. So they were 7 points up on last year's results. They're now only 3 points up on last year's results. It's early. Lots of things can happen, but it all adds up. And if you want to compete for the Supporters Shield, these are points you got to win. And if they had just won one of these two games, they would be back in controlling essentially their own destiny. And again, we're not even a third of the way through the season, so I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But if they had won one of these two games, they would be in a position where if they won their two games in hand, they'd be tied for first place. And that's not nothing. And so in all those ways, I agree with you. But I am encouraged by the play. This is now 4 games in a row where they've put up at least 2 XG, 4 league games in a row where they've put up at least 2 XG. And so they're creating chances. They're playing reasonably well. They got to start finishing some of them, though. And I will tell you, the weirdest stat that I have seen right now is that they're now 10 games into the season, and their starting striker has not scored in any game yet, which is just very strange. Danny Musovski has 3 goals. All of them have come when he's off the bench. Osaze de Rosario has 1 goal. It came when he was coming off the bench. And Jordan Morris has 1 goal, but it came when he started on the right wing. So, right. They need someone to sort of step up and take this number 1 striker spot.
They do, yeah. And I thought Jordan looked good again. He did put the ball in the back of the net, but of course it was offside. But he had some great chances that he didn't do a lot with, and that's frustrating. And I mean,
a couple mistime headers.
Yeah, I think everybody knows I'm as big of a Jordan Morris fan as there is, big a Jordan Morris supporter as there is. But he's got to put the ball in the net. And Danny Musovski, for all of his limitations, I guess you would say, I don't know, he's putting the ball in the net more than anybody else is right now, which is he's still not, setting the world on fire with this clip, but I think he's actually ahead of last year's scoring clip where he was at this time last year. So
certainly ahead of where he was last year at this time, because he didn't really pick it up until mid-season or so.
So, yeah, but I mean, it's very good, because one of the things we, have talked about a bit this season is Danny Musovski is not bringing you much if he's not putting the ball in the net, but he's been doing it a little more consistently, with 3 goals now. Had some great chances in this game. Would have loved to see him have 2, frankly, because he had the looks for it, but some good goalkeeping, good defending from San Diego, to give them credit. But there definitely are things to be encouraged about. I think I was not encouraged by the defensive display in this game. San Diego is not a bad attacking team, to be fair. I mean, they're probably better than the record would indicate, and they've scored at a decent clip. They've certainly scored more than the Sounders have this year. And so, there is that to take into consideration. But I mean, the Sounders were fortunate that they ended up getting a point out of this game. San Diego had some really good chances, especially late on. They had that one play where they had a couple of chances that were both really high, high leverage chances. So, but in the attacking phase, I was quite encouraged. I thought that the Sounders were able to create transition chances in this game, which is something they haven't really been able to do very much at home, which was really nice to see. And I think overall, I do think this team is going to be fine. I think in past years, having this discussion at this time, we've been trying to talk ourselves into thinking this team was better than their results were looking.
Right.
I'm frustrated at a team that I know is a very good team. I'm convinced is a very good team, not executing as well as I think that they should in the final third. But I think if you come away from this game being encouraged about what they're creating, how the attack looks, the way they're going about their game plan, I think that's entirely reasonable.
Yeah. I guess I should correct ourselves. I guess this was actually the time of year where Danny had started catching on fire.
Eddie. Okay.
Yeah. So like he had scored on May 10th. That was the 5th straight game that he had scored in. So he actually had 6 goals essentially at this time of year last year. Well, still, it's not like he's got 3 goals right now. And he doesn't have a whole ton of minutes. He's got 3 goals in about 500 minutes. He's, as much as anyone, he is, he's doing what he's being asked to do. He's getting chances. Yeah. You mentioned Jordan Morris being offside. I went back and we'd watched that play a lot, and I'm like 95% sure he's onside. The left back there seems to me that he's keeping him on. I'm a little and this is sort of one of my frustrations with the way VAR is in MLS, and I don't mind it, but it just seems like, look, we have the technology to draw lines on the field. Can we just do that?
Right. If we're not going to have semi-automated,
Right. I'm not asking for semi-automated offside. I just want to actually be sure that these, like, if we're going to do this, like, let's actually do it. But at the same time, as if Jordan was onside with that goal, Danny Musovski was 100% offside on the lead up to on the play that led to the corner kick that the Sounders eventually scored on. I don't take any real great joy in sharing this, but he was offside. And so the Sounders it all comes out in the wash, I guess, in that sense. And I should also say that Jordan had a couple pretty good passes in this one. He set up Moose for a really nice chance in front of goal with a back heel. And he had one other that Musovski put off the post. That was also a pass from Morris. Morris is, I know people are frustrated, perpetually frustrated with Jordan Morris.
Yeah.
Like I saw someone like, we got to stop starting him at the 9. It's like, this was his first start at the 9 in league play. Like, what are we, like, let's take a deep breath here. He is not, and I think Jordan's played reasonably well. He could be better. Like you said, he had a couple chances in this one. He's got to start putting more of those on frame. But he also, if the goal stands that he scored, I think there's a little bit of a different narrative around his performance. I still think he's probably the Sounders' best option, but I have to admit that the Sounders looked a lot more dangerous. The last 20 minutes of this game was probably the best that they've looked at any point this season. And Musovski was playing as the 9, Morris was on the right. And maybe most notably, Albert Rusnak had dropped back and was playing next to Christian Roldan. Now, I don't know if that's really a viable 90-minute setup, but it certainly was an interesting look that seemed to work really well for what the Sounders were trying to do.
Yeah, I think that at this point, I am open to whatever we feel like gets the best players on the field, especially when you're chasing goals like this. I'm a big Jordan Morris as a 9 guy, but if he's not producing at that position, you got to be open to trying other things. If Danny Musovsky is scoring goals when he's in there, that's, hey, like, you've got to do what's working. And frankly, I mean, I think that if Jordan cannot start scoring consistently, and again, this was his first start at striker since the Colorado game, right? He did start at striker in that game. Did he? Oh no, Asaze
No, he didn't.
Yeah,
No,
Asaze
yeah,
started
exactly.
striker at that game. So yeah, first game.
I had the
at
same
9.
original thought, to be
Right.
honest with you.
Yeah, first game at the 9. So it's let's not get carried away. But I mean, I think that if he doesn't start scoring, if you're still in a position where you don't really know what your best option is, that's probably something they should think about in the transfer window with that big pile of GAM, is maybe getting somebody who, can take that position and ship Jordan out to the wing and, see what that gets you. But I'm not too worried about it. I think that he'll come good eventually. But, it is, I think, at a time like this when nobody is really firing in all cylinders and, in front of goal, it's just going to be reasonable frustration until somebody starts putting him in. And I think that that's just part of the pressure of playing in that position.
I would agree with that. The other thing that happened that sort of seemed to change this game a little bit was when Antino Lopez came in for Nuhu at left back. And it seemed that the Sounders, I guess, switched into more of like a 3-5-2 formation. But Tino Lopez continues every single time he gets on the field. He just looks comfortable. And he had a left-footed shot that he was a little unlucky not to score on. The Sounders had quite a few shots get blocked. This was another one of those. But I like Tino Lopez basically everywhere we're seeing him. And if Nuhu is in fact hurt, and he did seem to come off with some injury, I would not be at all surprised if he didn't play against San Jose. I feel totally fine with Tino Lopez being in there. And I do wonder if he gives the Sounders another option at not necessarily at left back, but as a left center back in a 3-back set.
Yeah, I'm defensively, I think things have been working pretty well so far this season, but Nuhu at left back at home has not been working super well. I thought the Sounders looked much more dangerous after he came out, and I'm open for a little bit of competition at that position, especially at home. Nuhu's been great defensively in this game. I feel pretty comfortable saying it was his mistake that was largely responsible for San Diego's goal. And Tino has looked great. Like, he's not, I don't think he has the ceiling or of that Nuhu has. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be like a borderline best defender in the league, for example. But he's not put a foot wrong. He tends to stay within himself and do what he's asked to do what the team needs him to do. And yeah, so I think if they want to give that a try, I'm certainly willing to see it. I think that there's a lot to like about this team with the 3 center back setup. And I think, if you want to have one look on the road, one at home, or go, depending on who the opposition is, I think this team is flexible enough, professional enough to have a lot of different looks. And that's one of them I certainly would be open to seeing, especially if Nuhu is going to be out for some period of time.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, I saw you made a mention of this, but or maybe it wasn't you. I guess maybe it wasn't you. I guess it was Tim. Now that I'm thinking about it, but what have you made of Alex Roldan at right center back as opposed to playing right back? Is this an experiment that you feel like is working, or are you less inclined to see this through?
I think that he has done a great job at right center back, and I think they're in a situation where they haven't had a Yamar. Obviously, they want maybe a little more veteran presence than Tino's provides. Maybe they think that Alex and Jackson is a better pairing. But I think, all things being equal, I would much rather Alex play a right back. I think that he's done a great job at center back. I don't want to discount that. I think that he's one of the better right backs in the league. I don't think he's one of the better center backs in the league. I think that what he gives you at right back is makes the team much better. I like Kosarinzi a lot. I think he's a really good player. Certainly a great bargain, on the contract number he's on. He's a young kid. He's got a lot of room to grow. I'd put him as like an average MLS average right back right now, which is absolutely nothing to sneeze at. Like, if you've got an average right back that you can plug in there, coming off the bench as your second option, that's a lot better than a lot of teams are doing, especially again at that cap number. But I would really like Yamar to come back, get healthy, and Alex slide back to right back. I think it's made sense to keep him there. In this situation, missing Yamar, I don't really know that I was dying to see Tino Lopez move back to the bench. I thought he played really well. So I'm not sure why the decision was made to try Alex there instead. But I think that the talk of Alex as the eventual Yamar replacement is a little much personally. I do. Again, I think he's done a great job, but Yamar is at his best one of the best center backs this team has ever had, and hopefully he can come back at that level. If not, I mean, then you've got to have the conversation all over again, I think. But I think Alex is a serviceable center back and an elite right back in MLS, and that's kind of where I'd like to see him land eventually.
The other change that happened that seemed to have some positive impact was Peter Kingston coming in for Kalani, and it's continues to be sort of a remarkable reality that Peter Kingston is continuing to be one of the first guys off the bench.
Yeah.
And continues to sort of provide little sparks here and there. And, he had one really nice look at what would have been, can't remember if would have been an equalizer or the go-ahead goal, but he keeps getting himself into dangerous positions. He seems to play with a lot of confidence for a player who doesn't have much experience, at least at the MLS level. And I continue to be really pleased every time I see him playing. I don't think he's a better option than Kalani, but I continue to really like him as a bench option, especially. I am really, really digging this.
Yeah, I thought he looked great in this game. I think that the thing that whenever he plays that I notice, and I think this is true of most of the kids that end up breaking through and getting consistent playing time, is that there have been a lot of prospects, a lot of, academy graduates, draft picks, etc. in this team's history that came in and didn't look out of place from a skill perspective or, a skill standpoint necessarily, but looked timid, looked unsure of what to do. Weren't decisive, were very slow on the ball, very conservative with their decision making. And Kingston is just, he goes at it. Like he knows what he wants to do with the ball. He knows where to be in the attack. He gets forward. He's decisive. He moves quickly. He's brave, right? And that's, I think, a quality that a lot of the kids that come through the academy and break into the team or, get drafted and sort of develop with the team, that's what's expected of them. And I think that it's kind of known that you have to have that quality if you're going to have a chance to get consistent playing time in this team. And I think it shows, especially in a game like that, where San Diego's on the ropes. You've got pretty good control of the game. You really want to get the second goal, and you don't want to have somebody come in and slow things down and take the safe option. You want to have somebody that's going to just try to ram the ball down the other team's throat. And he brought that, and that energy, I think, was really helpful.
Yeah, that is, I think you nailed it. That's sort of what it is that he looks like a player who doesn't have time to waste. Like, he knows that he got a little bit of a late start on this whole thing. Right. And he's not here to just fit in. Like, he knows that he needs to make an impression, that he has to show he belongs, that he's not going to get a lot of second chances just by being good enough. He needs to be, a younger player, I think, can afford to just don't make mistakes. And I don't think that doesn't seem to be one of his problems. He's not worried. Like, he might make some mistakes, but he's not out there to not fuck up. He's out there to make stuff happen, And yeah. I appreciate that about him. And I don't know, there's a quality about his play that just is different that I like a lot. And he's a really easy person to root for as well. And it's a lot, and I guess in some ways almost like kind of Paul Rothrock too, where he just, as soon as he got out there, he was out there to make the game happen, and he continues to play that way. Now, could the Sounders use someone who is maybe a little bit more clinical everywhere? Like at some point we need some clinicians too, and that's sort of where I think Jesus Ferreira and Albert Rusnak and guys like that probably need to step up a little bit and be a little bit more sharp with their finishes, because the Sounders are doing a good job, like I said, of creating circumstances where someone can succeed. It's just that they aren't always there to capitalize. And, the San Jose game suddenly feels a lot bigger than I would prefer it to feel. But, that's, we'll take that. If they can win this game, I believe they would then they would be sort of back in controlling their own destiny. And look, again, I don't think there's any question that this is going to be a playoff team. I feel pretty good about them finishing top 4 right now, but they got home points, or they got to go out and get them, and they don't really have they can't afford to just throw away points against bad teams. That's kind of the thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's tempting to say, well, if they can beat this really good San Jose team, then who cares, right? All is forgiven. But again, it's just the missed opportunity, right? Like I don't love the narrative that the Sounders tend to play up to the level of their competition or down to the level of the competition, because I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't think it's that simple. Every team every year has a couple of results that are less than ideal, right? Even the great teams, but you're going to look back on those games. If you don't end up where you want to end up in the table, you're going to look back on games like this one, games like this Word and KC one, and say, oh, if only we could have gotten that result that we were good enough to get, that we should have expected to get, we'd be in a better situation right now. So, but if they beat San Jose, it's not an all is forgiven situation, but it certainly does make things feel better. It helps. Right.
It helps. Well, why don't we transition that? We'll come back. We'll take a break right now. We'll come. When we come back, we'll talk about the San Jose game, which is on Wednesday. Right away. You're listening to Nos Audietes on the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. Sounder at Heart has been around in one form or another since 2009. In 2026, though, we make a pretty significant evolution when we go analog. Yes, that's right. In the year of our Lord 2026, we are publishing a real-life magazine. We're calling this thing 4, as in Sounder at Heart 4.0, but we're stylizing it as IV because we absolutely love Roman numeral. And if you want to refer to it as IV, that's cool too. The first issue has a comic book style cover that was hand-drawn by local artist Kevin Newber. Features by Tim Foss, Susie Rance, and Charlie Boehm, a statistical deep dive by Kat Bush, a Q&A with Brian Schmetzer, a column by G. Willow Wilson, and photographs by Noah Reif, Max Aquino, Mike Russell, and Jane Dershowitz. I could not possibly be more proud of the work everyone put into making this, and I think you're going to absolutely love it. If you'd like to get your hands on one of these limited edition copies, we're currently selling them for $15 on our website. Get yours now. Nos Audietes, admittedly, is not exactly known for our spicy takes, but that doesn't mean we want our food to be mild. Spice up your life with Haxon Ferments. Handcrafted in Georgetown and made with the best local ingredients from across the Pacific Northwest, they specialize in unique small batch fermented hot sauces and vinegars. Haxon Ferments brings bold flavors and natural fermentation together for something truly special. Whether you're a heat seeker or just looking to elevate your cooking, you'll find something you love at haxonferments.com. That's HAXANFERMENTS.com. And right now, if you use the code SOUNDERATHEART, that's all one word, at checkout, you will get a free hot sauce with your order. Again, go to haxonferments.com, use the code SOUNDERATHEART at checkout for a free hot sauce with your order. Haxon Ferments is a proud sponsor of the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. Welcome back to Nos Audietes on the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. Before we get into the San Jose preview, I do want to give a plug for the new issue of 4, the Sounder at Heart magazine. It is focusing on the Seattle portion of the World Cup. We are in the final stages of getting this out to the printer as we speak. I am literally looking at proofs right now. I think people are going to be really happy with this. There's a bunch of stuff about kind of some stuff that looks back. There's an article about how that 2013 qualifier against Panama sort of helped change the supporter culture around the U.S. national team. There's a story about the failed 94 World Cup bid for Seattle. Frank McDonald does a really good job of explaining how close it came and why it didn't happen. We have a story about the Iranian diaspora and sort of how exciting this is for them to be having games out on the West Coast. We have a first-person essay from Garth Lagerwey. Yes, the Garth Lagerwey, who was recently spotted at the Aston Villa game. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
I did. That's exciting.
Yeah, he was, I guess, meeting with the Burnley owner. So I don't know.
Wow.
That which you will. Think of that what you will. But then Leander Schallerkens. Gosh, I should figure that one out. But he also has an essay. We have an excerpt from the upcoming Paul Tenorio book, The Messi Effect, which I think people will really enjoy. And then we have profiles of all 7 teams. There is a big feature on Ballard FC. There's also a big feature on the Rave Foundation and their quest to build 52 pitches, which will soon be completed. So anyway, lots of good stuff in there. I think people will really enjoy it. It's clocking in at 60 pages, which is 12 more than the first issue, which means this is going to be a kind of a fat issue. So you're going to get your money's worth. And I hope people want to buy that. And if you do, just go to Sounder at Heart and you'll find links on there. But enough plugging, Aaron. We got a game coming up on Wednesday, a midweek game against San Jose. San Jose is coming off a couple, like the Sounders, they are coming off a couple 1-1 ties. I think you could maybe argue they were, I don't know, maybe they're not anymore acceptable. They tied Toronto FC on the road, and then they tied the Vancouver Whitecaps at home.
That's a better result, I think.
That's a better result. Yeah. But this and then to improve the quality of the result, I suppose they were missing 2 pretty key components in the Vancouver game. I am not sure. Well, I guess we know that Nico Sekiris is not going to be available for this game. Timo Werner, I believe, is more questionable. We're not sure what's going to go on there, but they didn't play in the Vancouver game, and they still managed to get a 1-1 tie. But San Jose, I think, has probably almost certainly been the most surprising team this year. I don't know that anyone really pegged them. I don't know if anyone would have been shocked if they were a playoff contender, but I mean, they've been zooming along at the top of the Supporter Shield race, and all the underlying numbers say this is a team that's for real.
Yeah, I mean, they have been impressive, I think, in every phase of the game. They score a lot. They don't give up a lot of goals. They have a pretty decisive way of playing, and they go out and execute. I'm still not really sure how the Sounders managed to win that game there, but it's still their only loss of the year. They look for real. I don't enjoy having to admit that. I am not a Bruce Arena guy. I was hoping he had kind of run out of magic, but apparently not. I mean, apparently, they lost some key players and got significantly better somehow without. I mean, Timo Werner, obviously a big addition, but it's been impressive. I think it's difficult to take anything away from them. They look legit. I'm not sure if they're quite as good as Vancouver, but I mean, that's still a very good team. And they're probably going to be pretty pissed off about that loss that in a game that they absolutely should have won. So, that's something you deal with. Maybe overperforming a little bit so far, but not by too much. It's
not too much at all.
It's a tough test. It's a very tough test. Would love to see the Sounders, pull out a result in this one. Wouldn't say I'm optimistic they're going to take all 3 points, but they've got a good enough defense that I think they're in every game. They have a chance to win every game. They have a chance to get a point out of every game. But a win here would go a long way towards, I think, making me feel better about the team's odds in the Supporter Shield. That's for sure.
For sure. So the big scorer for them this year has been Preston Judd. Now, Preston Judd is sort of a very similar player to Danny Masovsky, right down to their hometown being Las Vegas. But Judd, you probably know he played for the Galaxy. He's given the Sounders some trouble in the past. I believe he scored in the San Jose home game last year. He's a solid player. Like, he doesn't do a lot that is fancy or flashy, but man, he puts himself in good positions and he finishes his chances. Like I said, and he's only 26, almost 27, but he is, is a relatively young guy who, wouldn't shock me if he goes on a, maybe not quite Chris Wondolowski run, but something akin to that. I mean, he's a real player. The other player who's really broken out for them this year is Useni Buda, who was a really highly touted draft pick a couple years ago. I believe he came out of Stanford, and he hadn't really done much up until this year. And this year he's been absolute gangbusters. He's got 5 goals and an assist already. So he's already equaled his career total. And I take it back. He got drafted in 2022. So it's been more than a couple years. This was sort of getting close to probably last chance saloon for him. And, he's a nice player. He's got some physical attributes. He's a winger. He can play with the ball at his feet. And, he seems to have been a really good pairing with Timo Werner. And between the two of them, they've got a lot of speed. And then this Daniel Mooney guy, who is a center back, has been an absolute revelation as a kind of late bloomer too. He's 26, and he is now in his fourth MLS season, and he is also looking like a real player for them, a center back who apparently is like the fastest guy and the fastest defender in the league, which I would not have guessed. But a lot of players and that's before we even get talking about Nikos Sakiris, who has been really good for them as their sort of playmaker. He just suffered an injury. He's going to be out for this one. And then Timo Werner, who, again, we don't know if he's going to be available, but totally looks legit in his, like, MLS definitely seems to be a level he can play at.
Yeah, he's been he's made the adjustment really quickly. I think he's like the ideal famous European DP signing, right? I mean, I guess he's not
right.
Like mega famous, but he's a guy that's still in his physical prime, more or less. Seems committed.
Yeah, he's
seems
30.
to want to be here, right? And it doesn't seem like a selfish player. Doesn't seem like he's coming in and feeling like he's better than anybody else, right? He wants to win games, and he's playing like it. And a great signing for them.
Yeah, 4 goals and 3 assists in 7 appearances.
Yeah, not too bad. He made his debut against the Sounders, right? That was
he did. Yes, his first start. Yeah. His first start was against the Sounders,
and that was a game that Cody Baker made him look pretty ordinary. So
he did.
A lot of crazy things could happen in MLS, but he's if he is playing, if he is in the team, he's going to be a guy that's difficult to deal with. But they've got quite a few of those guys. I'm not really sure how they've done it, honestly. Like Timo Werner, not a big surprise. He's been a great player. A lot of the other guys you just mentioned, I don't know, man.
It's a lot of guys that are like Americans who got drafted, and it's like an old school. It's like a classic Bruce Arena roster. But guys who are, Reed Roberts is the other starting center back, and he's another guy who came out of the draft. I want to say like they're starting 8 to 9 guys that came out of the draft every game. I mean, this is sort of the way that the Sounders are this Tacoma Defiance built team. This Earthquakes are really a team built on the draft. It's very impressive that Bruce Arena just keeps doing this. It's remarkable.
He's, look, I don't like his teams. I've never enjoyed watching a Bruce Arena coach team. Not to say that they play like bad soccer or anything. I just don't like the man, and I don't like the way his teams play. But they're good. He's a great coach, and it's tempting to sort of view him as like and this is kind of the way I viewed him until this year, honestly, as kind of a guy from a bygone era who's, the game is passing by, but that's just clearly not true, right? Like what he's doing with this group of guys in, a market that's like, people think the Sounders are cheap. Come on. Like it's, he does not have a lot of resources to work with down there. And It's very impressive. I mean, it's like Vancouver's kind of in a similar boat, right? They have both teams have figured out how to make it work with what they've got. And what they've got is a bunch of guys that are extremely bought in to what they're trying to do. And I mean, I don't want to tip my cap to San Jose because I don't like anything about the San Jose Earthquakes, but you kind of have to. They've been an exceptional team this year. And, it's a game I'd really like to win because these are the kind of teams that the Sounders need to be able to beat at home to really feel like, this is a team that can make a trophy run this year.
Absolutely. Another guy that they got, someone who I love his story because he just went to San Jose State, but Bo LaRue, and he's from San Jose, which I don't know, I have a soft spot in my heart, but Bo LaRue.
Oh, for your hometown, you have a soft spot for your
yeah, believe it or not.
Crazy how it works.
It is crazy how it works. But I don't have that much of a soft spot for the Earthquakes, but I do have a soft spot for players who came out of San Jose. And Bo LaRue is a actual San Josean, which I appreciate. And he's another fun player. I mean, they just have a bunch of these guys who you couldn't pick them out in a lineup, and yet they're out there and they do play an attractive soccer. Like, this is not, like I don't really have anything bad to say about this San Jose team other than I really would like to beat them. And I came away from the last meeting really impressed by their whole shtick, I don't know. I even come around on Bruce Arena a little bit. Like,
I mean, it's impossible not to be impressed by his career, right? Like, it's just he has been around in American soccer since the days that American soccer might as well not have existed.
I mean, for forever. Like, he's been around American soccer for as long as American soccer has mattered, which is wild.
And much, I mean, honestly, much longer than that even. I think probably the most impressive U.S. World Cup performance. I think it's fair to say.
I mean, he took him to the quarterfinals. No one's gone farther than that.
Yeah, and probably should have gone to the semifinals. Based on how that game went, and a team that didn't have a ton of expectations coming in. But obviously won a ton of stuff with the Galaxy. It turned the Revolution into a pretty good team when he was there, and now is doing the same thing with the Earthquakes. Like, it's just. It's like I'm trying to think of a good analog from another sport. And I don't know if I'm coming up with one, but it is just like, look, like, I hated those Galaxy teams. I still hate the Galaxy to this day because I hated those Galaxy teams so much, but you hated them because they had what you didn't. And that was a lot of championships, and they won those championships in part because they had great players, but in large part because Bruce Arena knew how to fill in the rest of the roster around those good players and motivate guys and get them to succeed. I mean, he's not dissimilar from Brian Schmetzer in that way, right?
No, he and Brian Schmetzer seem very much cut from the same cloth.
Which makes sense. I mean, they're both Northwestern guys, and they've got that kind of work ethic and everything. So, it's I hate to give him credit, but you kind of have to. Like, he's just a legend in American soccer at this point, and I would have preferred he went and had his little resurgence in the Eastern Conference somewhere, but it is what it is. And at least the Earthquakes are a new good team to hate, right? Like, at least it's not LAFC or the Galaxy again, I suppose.
Two teams it's just so easy to hate in the Earthquakes and the Whitecaps. They're at the top of the conference. Well, I don't know if we have much more to say about San Jose. It's going to be a competitive game, I'm sure. Would be great if the Sounders could start, winning some of these games. But this is going to be a tough one. There's certainly when I looked at the schedule, this was the game that I thought looked like the toughest. So, when I looked at this 3-game stand, I should say, this one looked like it was going to be the toughest. So, fingers crossed, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, like we said in the first segment, a win here does not undo the frustration of the last two results, but it certainly makes it easier to move past it. And at the very least, I think if they can get a point out of this and look Like if they can have the performance they had against San Diego in this game, it's not going to be super satisfying. But I think that a loss in this game, putting in those 2 results and then losing that this one would feel pretty bad, put a pretty big dent in this World of Shield hopes. And got to feel like you have to avoid that at all costs. And then you've got, another tough one coming up on the weekend against the Galaxy. So you don't want things to spiral, right? So
no.
Would be real good to get a win in this one and kind of get the ship headed back in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to put a pin in it. Aaron, thank you as always for hanging out and doing these things. Thank you to our sponsor, Full Pull Wines. Thank you to all of you for continuing to listen. I do want to urge you to go check out the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube page. You're going to start seeing a lot more of our stuff on there. So, like and subscribe and do all those kinds of things that you're supposed to do. Also, if you're listening to our podcast and you aren't a subscriber, even if you don't listen to it on Apple or wherever else, just go ahead and subscribe, rate us, do all those kind of things. Those help us with discovery. We're always trying to grow. And a shocking number of you actually click on the podcast player on the website, which is great. All listens count, but it does help us when we have more subscribers and more ratings and all that kind of stuff. So we don't do that plug very often. So hopefully that means something.
Yeah,
all of you. But all right, well, let's get out of here. I am Jeremiah Shan, signing off for Aaron Campo and Lickett. This is Nos Audietis, part of the Sounder Heart Podcast Network. And remember, you'll never get alone.
Let's go, Sounders.